even if it was 2 a.m. in the morning, with only a little bit of moonlight reflecting off the body panels of this car, you, I, and everyone would immediately recognize Nissan's supercar, the 2018 GTR. Well, there's also the fact that, well, it's essentially unchanged in a decade's time, and that it was one of the most talked about cars in the business at the end of the last decade. So does that mean this car is overhyped, overdue, old, out of touch with reality? Nah. I may have thought so once, but I believe I've changed my mind. Give me a few minutes of your time. What really surprises me every time I pick up a Nissan GTR, wow, that sounds cocky, it is its size. It is an enormous automobile. The length, the width, the height. I mean, even though it looks like it's a box on wheels, it's got a 0.26 coefficient of drag. But again, the size, I mean, if I was to park a 570S or a Huracan alongside it, it would be like comparing a Ford Super Duty and an EcoSport, if I was to use Ford as an example for some reason. Anyway, look at the width. Okay, admittedly, this is not the car's best angle, but that front end was revised along with some of the aero bits for the 2017 model year. The rear end was retouched as well, but it retains the very important and signature round taillights that were introduced in the early 70s with the first Skylines. Again, look at the height, just the size of the rear quarter. Look how the line, the way it drops. This is a big automobile. Speaking of big, so is the price. It's not the bargain it once was. Base for the premium, this car, $125,600. It includes just about everything you see here, including these 20-inch wheels. You could spend $24,100 more. I'll do the math for you. $149,700 for a track edition, which includes Nismo wheels, Nismo tuned suspension, and a few other interesting bits. The car's a little bit lighter, but I can't imagine it's worth $24,000 more. I wouldn't do that. Anyway, what else can I tell you about the styling? It hasn't evolved much, just enough. This is still the good old R35, as we all know it. Yeah, my car actually has a few options, as you would imagine. The paint job for white, it's an extra grand. And I have a premium leather interior package, which adds another $5,300 to the price, for a total of $132,000. Just because. Trunk. It's not very big, but it's really, really deep. Remember those fenders? I mean, you can fill this up and drown probably your dog in there. Not that you would, you should. But anyway, a couple of golf bags and your lunch, and that's it. All right, so there it is. That's what you pay $5,300 for. The leather is actually hand stitched. It's really nice. It's very thick. Lovely, lovely quality. The car is a 2+2, or for midget-ish type people, if you have no legs, that's my driving position. So the rear end pretty much doubles as storage. So let's slide aboard. So a telltale sign that this car is old school. Oh, I love the way it starts. All those mechanical noises. Those gauges are pretty simple, huh? Here are your changes, your speedo, fuel consumption. Yes, that was 21 liters per 100 kilometers. And yeah, that's about it. Still large, legible, nice. This is new, the 2017 car last year. 8.8-inch screen. It's very usable, very simple to operate. It has all the functions you could want, Bluetooth, CarPlay, blah, blah, blah. The graphics are still old school, kind of like you'd get in a VersaNote. Anyway, this is all revised to the HVAC controls, simple, straightforward, actually pretty classy looking. These are the important switches. Your driveline, oops. Your dampers, Oops. And ESP. You can do that, or do this, or that. There you go. And launch yourself into oblivion. Shifter. Very simple. It's your reverse, your neutral. This is an auto. Switch over to manual, switch back to auto. Pretty simple. This is your controller for the screen up there. Again, very simple. And nice big paddles. I mean, there's not much else to say about the interior of the car. It has evolved, but it hasn't changed all that much. I mean, I guess it's less gadgety than it once was. But I think the important part is the drive. And I've had something of an epiphany very, very recently about the GTR. So let's go for a spin. So it's official. I've just recently decided to change my whole approach on this car. In the last decade, I've driven at least 8, maybe 7 GTRs in various situations, track in Europe, here, and where the car blew my mind 10 years ago, like as it did every other outlet and performance car enthusiast at the time. The car progressively got worse and worse for me. As the power increased and the price went through the roof, the car lost most of its appeal. Its age doesn't help. Now, I'm not taking back any of that. But today, now, late summer 2018, this no longer is a hypercar matching, supercar fast, hardcore, super performance car. For me, no. This is old school. Metallica, Red Lightning, me. We are all old school now. Right? This is now the JDM equivalent of the Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat. Right? The specs, you all know the specs, right? VR38D double T, 3.8 liter twin turbo V6, 565 HP at 6,800 RPM, 467 pound-feet of torque between 33 and 5,800 RPM, 6-speed dual clutch, automated transmission, a Tesla ATTE SA all-wheel drive system, rear transaxle with transmission, differential, and center diff behind, front midship engine, 54-46 weight distribution, and bananas, freaking bananas fast. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour is scarcely over 3 seconds. We all knew that, right? And to touch on the past, what I've hated the most about this car was its steering. When you want it to be light and easy, it's heavy. When you want it to be a little bit less assisted and more touchy-feely, it isn't. And it only becomes good when you're driving at like 8/10 this car on a track, Spa or a few other tracks that I've driven it at, and that's when the car gets good. But you have to take it there, and it took me forever to build up confidence in this car. And I mean, although it's old, it still has like double wishbone front suspension, rear multi-link. This thing is set up to handle everything. Massive 20-inch tires and wheels. The other downside weakness on this car are the brakes. Inadequate for the amount of performance and power and grip this car has. So that just brings me right back full circle to the Challenger Hellcat in a straight line. You lower your windows. I won't do it now, but you put the throttle down. I mean, just put the transmission in R. Suspension's in comfort, by the way, because the dampers are adjustable, because it has to be, because otherwise the ride is just no fun. There's too much traffic. I won't be able to nail it, but I'm telling you, to hear the intake suck on all that air, you can almost see like a Titanic-sized piece of atmosphere being sucked in every half second. My goodness. Okay, that was tight. It's just unbelievable. The sounds and the drama, it's so much is going on. But then when you come back down hard on the binders, on the track, for example, by the third minute of what you're doing, they run out of resistance. I mean, if you really want to track this car, you have no choice but to get an Nismo, which, if memory serves, has ceramic brakes, but it's not even available in Canada, so that's kind of a moot point. I'm going to go back into normal for the transmission. Yes, this thing still has launch control, and it's not as brakey as it once was. A little bit more reliable, but daily driving the car is a little bit of a chore. I just drove by, and you saw that on the screen. A massive dump truck who decided at that very moment that the lane he was in no longer mattered. And I got squeezed really tight. This thing is huge. The footprint, I mean, heck, I think it's as wide as an F-150. And if the suspension is not in comfort, I don't know. There's no point in demonstrating that. It's a little bit of a chore. This, and I can conclude with that, the GTR still turns heads, right? 10 years later. It's still insanely fast. It is contemporarily quick compared to cars that have come out in the last 6 months. But this is not your late midlife crisis car, because it's not relaxing. It's not just squeeze on the power and you're off. No. If you're, your mid-60s, don't buy a GTR. Trust me. Get an S-Class coupe, or I don't know. What else can you get? There are a whole bunch of options. Just not a GTR. I think I've fallen back in love with the car for the right reasons this time, as opposed to hating it for the right reasons. A strange twist. A very, very strange twist. Now, for $132,000, would I buy one? Well, I wouldn't buy one used. I can promise you that. Would I buy one new as my sole high-performance car? No, not even close. I would get a Z06 Corvette before this, even if it is only rear drive compared to the all-wheel drive. But yeah, it's still a fantastic car. It's all kinds of wrong, all kinds of old, but it's funny now. It's fun.